Chapter 5 is called Time, and if you look, you can see, the picture right here of the hermit crab. Her name's Gwendolyn, remember? Kona, Gwendolyn whispered into the darkness. It's begun. The dog lifted his brown head from his bed in the corner of the living room. Listen, said Gwendolyn. Kona held himself quite still and listened. There was the ticking of the Swiss clock on the mantel, the hush of warm air from the gas fireplace, the subtle buzz of the plant light above Professor Albert's violets, and something else. Can you feel it in the air, Kona? Gwendolyn shifted her shell around to look at him directly. Kona waited, and as he did, a most powerful feeling came over him. Is it Stumpy? He whispered. Is it time? The old crab stretched her antennae as high as they could reach. She searched the air. I believe it is time, she said with conviction. Oh! Kona jumped up. Oh! He went to the picture window and looked out toward the tops of the trees in Gooseberry Park. I wish I could be there, he said. He rested his front paws on the windowsill. Kona, dear, said Gwendolyn, you are a most remarkable dog, but I am sorry to say you are not so remarkable as to climb a tree and assist a squirrel with having babies. Oh, I wish I were, Kona said with a sigh. I wish I were that remarkable. She'll be fine, dear, Gwendolyn said reassuringly, fully believing this herself. She's a plucky one. Kona stared out toward the park a while longer. Then he began to pace. He went from the living room to the dining room, turned right at the sideboard to the study, circled the study, then paced back to the living room, exactly the way he'd come. He longed for a good bone to chew, but he'd left his best one in the backyard. He plopped down on the floor and began chewing the leg of the coffee table. Kona! Yelled Gwendolyn. What? The dog jumped so fast, he banged his nose on the table. Thanks, Gwendolyn. I forgot where I was. I don't think there's much damage. The old crab shook her head. Kona, my dear, there are some things in this life we must experience alone. Even having babies? Asked Kona. Even having babies, answered Gwendolyn. Why, when I had my children... Gwendolyn, you have children? Kona's eyes were wide with surprise. The crab smiled. Dear, I had quite a full life in the tropics before I was carried off to be sold in a pet shop. Not that I'm complaining, mind you. I am very devoted to our Professor Albert. Children? Asked Kona. Oh, at least 50, answered Gwendolyn. All grown now, and let me tell you, my friend, giving birth is something very private and rather sacred. It was, for me, as private as prayer. Oh, said Kona with a solemn look on his face. Together the two gazed out the window in silence, at the trees, the stars, the clear bright moon in the sky. Each was full of thoughts about the earth and its heavens, about mothers and their children, about the profound comfort of shelter and the familiarity of home. And both sent forth their best, their strongest, their most sustaining thoughts to the little red squirrel who, at that very moment, was happily nursing 2 baby boys and 1 baby girl in the good green fragrance of the pin oak tree. So there's a couple of pictures here. If you look really close, you can see the babies right there. Chapter 6. It's entitled Children. There you go. The following several days were rather heady ones for the little red squirrel who had become a mother. Never had she received so much attention and praise. Never had she been so talked about. The birth of new babies is important news anywhere, and Gooseberry Park was no exception. Word spread quickly through the trees and burrows and along the river bank that triplets had been born to the busy red squirrel who collected yogurt cups. Friends who hadn't seen Stumpy in months suddenly dropped by, carrying gifts of hard, pungent walnuts, or choice bits of ham sandwiches, or the occasional French fry, which was considered quite a delicacy in park circles. Red, gray, and black squirrels oohed and awed. Mourning doves cooed. Starlings cackled, and cardinals peeked shyly over the edge of the nest. Even a fat old possum hoisted himself up the tree to pay his respects. A brisk cold wind was blowing now. unusual for early April. The park was strangely quiet as the trees leaned in the chilly breeze. But Stumpy had no worries. She had 3 beautiful babies, a fine collection of treasures, and a wonderful new neighbor who loves bringing her egg rolls. The winds could blow as hard as they might. She was secure. Kona, of course, had been by to visit every day since the baby's arrival. He still hadn't met Murray, since the bat slept most of the day, and of course Kona hadn't met Stumpy's children yet either. They were much too tiny to be carried down to the ground. But Stumpy herself came down when Kona called her name, and she told him all the wonderful details. She said the little girl loved to sleep and that she sang in her sleep like a little bird. The 2 baby boy squirrels liked to rest on each other, and one preferred the bottom and one preferred the top. So she named them Top and Bottom. And the little girl was called Sparrow for her pretty song. Their eyes weren't even open yet. Stumpy said it was hard work being a mother to newborns. She couldn't waste time or explore for fun anymore. Whenever she left the nest, it was only to pull a few pine cones from the tree stump or to unearth a few acorns buried nearby. Then she had to hurry back home, for her babies would be waking and crying to be fed. She had never felt so needed. She had never felt so tired. Still, she told Kona she had never felt so happy, and Murray visited every night. Kona trotted cheerfully back home and reported to Gwendolyn, word for word, everything Stumpy had told him. Though Gwendolyn had never met Stumpy personally, she regarded the squirrel as an old friend, and she was glad for the good news from Kona. Glad for the babies in Gooseberry Park.